for a short period of time, had 194 wins, an ERA of 3.51, 2,293 strikeouts. He won the Cy Young Award, Rookie of the Year, then the Cy Young, a Silver Slugger Award, and 3 World Series, and he came up when he was 19 years old. Just amazing. Following his rookie year, he became the youngest pitcher ever to win the Cy Young in his sophomore year, so no sophomore jinx there. 24-4 record. This was such an amazing year, guys. A 1.53 ERA. He had a whip of .965, and I mean, it's just amazing. He had 268 strikeouts that year. So, how about a round of applause for our legend, Doc Gooden? So, you know, you came right out, you asked who roots for who.
Yes.
So I'm gonna put it on you, Doc. I mean, who is your favorite team?
My favorite team? I always say, if I'm in the Bronx, I'm a Yankee. If I'm in Queens, I'm a Met. No, but honestly, I'm always gonna be a Met. The Mets are by far, that's where my heart is. The Yankees, I root for the Yankees, I root for the Mets, but I'm always gonna be a Met. So it's good to sit on this, you know, blue and orange colors right here. I appreciate you guys.
Oh, you just made a lot of people real happy right now. What is your, I mean, you have so many of them, right? But what would be your most cherished memory?
Wow, I can only pick one?
I mean, you can say whatever you want, but I'd like to know if there's one that comes to mind, what would it be?
I would probably say when I made the team, like in spring training, being a 19-year-old and making the team, because I went to spring training as a non-roster player. David Johnson was my manager, and he told me when I went to spring training that I was going to make the team, but you never know until you make it. And playing baseball at a young age, you know, when I started out, it was my father's dream, then it became my dream. My dad grew up in a small town called Americus, Georgia. He only had a 3rd grade education. He pretty much taught himself everything, but he taught me the game of baseball at a very young age. When I was 8 years old, as well as my nephew Gary Sheffield. We stayed in the same house. So obviously my most memorable moment and cherished moment I would have was when I made the team and to share that moment with my dad. That's the only time I ever seen my dad cry, when I made the team. So I would probably have to say sharing that moment with my father.
How special is that? And you know, we have, obviously there's a lot of dads and sons in the audience, and we can all relate, you know, to having somebody there with us and just sharing those special moments. I actually had the pleasure of meeting you last fall, and we talked a little bit about the year that you got the no-hitter. Yes. Would you share with the crowd not only about the no-hitter, but like what made that game so special? And you know what I'm referring to with your yeah.
So the no-hitter, I can walk you guys through that. When I signed with the Yankees in '96, I started out 0-3, and I was basically bench. And when a pitcher gets benched, I mean, you're not getting in the game if the score is 10-0 or you're down 10-0. You're not getting in the game. And the Yankees were trying to decide whether to release me or send me down to the minors. Unfortunately, David Cohn got the aneurysm in his shoulder. It was put on the disabled list. And George Steinbrenner, who was the owner at the time, said, put Gooden back in the rotation. Which Joe Torre, he wanted to go to Ramiro Mendoza. And Steinbrenner said, no, put Gooden back in the rotation. So I got back in the rotation, and my 4th start back in was a no-hitter, but that particular day after the no-hitter, I was supposed to go home to Tampa to be with my father, who was getting ready to have open heart surgery the next day. He had been on dialysis for 15 years. His health was deteriorating. And they said if he didn't have the heart surgery at that time, he probably wouldn't make it another night. And if he did have it, because of his health, he might not make it as well. So I had my plane ticket to fly home. But the morning I woke up, you know, I said, you know what? My dad would probably want me to pitch. I should think about all the time we spent at the Little League parks, when he was teaching me all the drills and him talking about, you know, your job comes first, take care of your responsibilities first, and things in that matter. So I called Joe Torre, who's the manager. I said, I'm coming in tonight, I'm going to pitch. He said, no, go home, be with your father, take as much time you need, come back when you're ready. I said, no, I'll see you tonight. The next phone call, I had to call my mother. I told her, I said, Mom, I think Dad want me to pitch. She said, no, you have to come home. You need your support. Everybody's gonna be here. You have to come home. So I was starting to feel bad about the situation because my mind was made I was going to pitch that night. So I actually hung up on my mom. That's something you kids don't do. Don't hang up on your mom. So I hung the phone up, and that day, it just felt like a dark cloud on my head. You know, I was trying to decide if I make the right decision, did I not make the right decision, will I see my father again, am I not gonna see him again? So when I got to the ballpark, Mel Stoudemire, who was my pitching coach, even with the Mets as my pitching coach, so he was a good friend of mine, he talked to me a little bit, he said, "You sure you're okay to pitch?" I said, "Yes, I'm fine." The first 3 innings of that game, I was standing between the walkway of the clubhouse and the dugout. Sometimes it's wondering if I made the right decision, thinking about is my dad gonna be okay, sometimes tearing up a little bit. Not until the 6th inning when I realized I had a no-hitter going, and at that time, I was looking at the scoreboard to see who Seattle had come up to hit, and you see no runs, no hits, no errors. So your heart starts beating a little faster, anxiety kicks in a little bit, so I was able to put my dad's situation aside and finish pitching the game. The 9th inning, I walked 2 guys, and at the time the score was 2-0. Mel Stoudemire came out to the mound, he goes, "How do you feel?" I said, "Doesn't matter, I'm not coming out." And so I finished pitching the game. Obviously I pitched a no-hitter, and if you guys see the team carry me off the field, all I can think about was the previous season, being suspended from baseball. Is my dad gonna be okay? Early in the year, I was getting ready to get released. Now I'm pitching a no-hitter at Yankee Stadium. So obviously that night I didn't get to sleep. I took a ball from the game to give to my father. The next day I flew home. The doctor said he had the surgery. He was on life support. And the thing that made that game so special, he ended up passing away. He never left the hospital, but the last game he saw me pitch was the no-hitter.
That's a really special story, and I don't know how many people knew that, but thanks so much for sharing that with us tonight. It takes a lot. And I'm sure it was a big moment for you for a lot of reasons, and I appreciate that you just did that. We talk about baseball, and there's a lot of failure that comes with baseball. I know some of the coaches and we've discussed this before, and it's tough. It's not a spectator sport. It's especially at the Little League level, you can't really hide, and everybody gets the same amount of at bats, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 in the game. So you're up there standing by yourself. You got to do it, and that's one of the lessons that I think we learn and try to teach the kids at a young age. That it's going to happen. You're going to fail, but you got to come back. That, whether it's during the game, the next pitch, the next at bat, or just day to day, you got to come back, right? What would you say? How did you handle failure through your career, and what did you do to overcome that?
You're right. It's a lot of times, myself, failing at the sport as a pitcher, and failing in life sometimes with addiction that I suffered through. I think the one thing that's very important is having someone you can talk to, whether it's you guys' age, having a teammate, not giving up on yourself, having confidence in your ability, talking to your dad or your mom or your parent or your brother, sister, whoever you have. And understand, in sports, you're going to have failure. That's part of it. But always believe in yourself, and always tell even my kids, when you don't have practice and you're not having games, what can you do to make yourself better? I know now there's a lot of distractions. You got the PS5s and the TikToks and all that stuff. I get that. You only get to be a kid once. Have fun, I get it, but work hard. And in sports, you're going to have failures, but have someone you can talk to and understand, don't never take the last at-bat until the next at-bat. Even if you hit a home run, that at-bat's over. If you pitch it, you walk 2 guys, the next batter, this is a new count. And never try to make a perfect pitch for the pitchers. Just make quality pitches. For the hitters, never say I gotta be perfect, gotta wait for my pitch. Just take one pitch at a time, a bat at a time. Another thing is, in practice, in the batting cages, when you pitch on the side or whatever it may be, that's where you're working on all your mechanics, working on all your weaknesses. But when you get in a game situation, try not to think too much about mechanics. Am I got my hands right? Am I getting my leg up? Just let everything go. Everything is muscle memory. Just let everything take place. But the number one thing, especially at you guys' age, is have fun. Have fun, man, okay? There shouldn't be any pressure on you guys at this age. But, playing hard, follow kids that have the same goals you guys have. And sometimes you're gonna have failure, but I understand in sports, when you have failures in sports, it's prepare you for life challenges, because we all will have life challenges one way or another. And it helps you deal with that. But the most important thing is have someone that you can trust and you can talk to about whatever, and they're not gonna judge you, whether it's in a bat or whether it's a life issue, okay?
How many of our Little Leaguers are having fun? I want to hear it. Are you having fun? Okay. Doc, some people wanted to know, who is your favorite catcher to work with? I think I know who it is, but I'm curious what you have to say.
I got a great story with that too. So obviously Gary Carter's my favorite all the time. Gary Carter is the best. Gary Carter is the nicest guy that you could meet off the field, but on the field he was tough. And the thing I like about Gary, because it didn't matter if I was winning 10-0, he wanted me to pitch like it was 1-0. And Gary's the type, if we have any catchers here, Little League catchers, communicating with the pitchers is very important. Between innings, if you're not hitting or the pitcher's not hitting, communicate about what you look for. If you're throwing the next inning, how you're going to approach certain hitters. That's the key. Gary did that. And it's funny because, real quick, when I pitched the no-hitter, Joe Girardi was my catcher with the Yankees, right? And so after the game, we were having a press conference, and Joe Girardi's at the press conference, and a writer asked me, "Who's your favorite catcher?" And so Joe's sitting there, and I never thrown a no-hitter before, so I said, "Joe Girardi." The next day, who did I get a call from? Gary Carter.
And you had 13 shutouts with Gary behind the plate.
Yeah, Gary's the best, hands down.
So while we're at it, for the diehard Met fans, what could you share about, and be careful with the answer, Doc, what could you share about that 1986 team that maybe we don't know about? Because that was a very special team.
Yes.
I mean, it was, what a crazy year, but what could you share with us? Bring us behind the scenes a little bit.
I like the way you say, be careful what I say. The thing I love most about that team, we're very close, and today we're still close, and we're getting ready to have a golf outing June 26th, if any of you guys are down in the New York area. But one of the things, like they said, it Mets was a party team, the Mets was crazy, all the different characters. But the one thing they didn't give us credit for, we loved the game, we loved each other. There was a lot of baseball knowledge on that team. Like on Sunday afternoon, for example, there was a lot of traffic. So after a Sunday day game, we'll sit in the clubhouse to traffic that and just talk baseball. If we went on the road, if we went to Chicago, St. Louis, wherever, you guys go in the hotel, we check in, you call your girlfriends or you call your wife, and out of a 25-man roster, at least 23 of us meet back downstairs, we go out to eat together, we hang out together. Very close-knit team. If a guy screwed up, the guys would get on him, but it didn't leave the clubhouse, it stayed right there. And I don't think we got enough credit for all the knowledge and the love we had amongst each other for that team.
For a lot of the crowd, they obviously weren't anywhere near born for that year and for what happened in that year, what a magical year really was for the Mets. I'll never forget where I was when you guys won the World Series, and I think for most baseball fans, you always remember that. Both
and plus, another thing was, the fans that was there, you guys were at Shea Stadium in '86, the energy and electricity you guys brought to the stadium, the curtain calls. When I was pitching, getting 2 strikes on the batter, you guys stood up clapping, all that, you guys played a huge part of our success, so thank you guys as well for that.
What stadium was the loudest for you?
Shea Stadium.
Shea Stadium.
Shea Stadium. Yankee Stadium got loud. In Cleveland, every game was so loud, but it was like just an associate, event. Nothing against Cleveland fans, but nothing got louder than Shea Stadium. I mean, that was the best.
So my buddy George is a big Met fan, and his son, and he asked me to ask you that the rumor was that you were a much better left-handed batter than a right-handed batter, but that you hit righty so that you wouldn't expose your pitching arm. Is that true?
I started switch hitting when I was in Little League, so if any guys are trying that, just go for it, you never know. I would say I had probably more power left-handed, but than right-handed. My second big league start, Rick Sutcliffe with the Cubs at the time hit me in the arm, and I had to come out of the game. And from that point, Davey Johnson said, batting left-hand is over. So I just had to learn more from the right side, yes.
And if you weren't a pitcher, what other position would you have played?
Wow, probably outfield. I used to love playing third base. In high school, I played third base, I played shortstop, I played outfield. But I didn't really start pitching until my junior year in high school. We had a guy, Floyd Yeomans, who was in the Gary Carter trade, was on our staff. He got cut off the team, got released off our team for missing practice. I got to start. But I always wanted to play other positions with my father. He must have knew I was going to be a pitcher.
Well, I'm glad that he knew you were going to be a pitcher. That worked out pretty good. I think about the World Series in '86, but I remember that the championship series against the Astros. That was insane. That was an incredible series. Could you share a little bit with the audience about what that series was about, and if there's anything you want to share about the '86 World Series too?
Yes, the playoffs. So I remember the first game 1, Mike Scott that year, if you guys know, was Cy Young. He had 300 strikeouts, 20 wins, just a dominant pitch that year. And our hitters were more concerned about catching Mike Scott, scuffing the ball, than getting hits off Mike Scott. And he beat me the first game 1-0. So when we got to game 6, the game that went 16 innings, that was basically our game 7. We had to win that game because Mike Scott was pitching the next game. And I get asked a lot of times, was Mike Scott cheating? He wasn't cheating. It was Alan Ashby, the catcher, was scuffing the balls on his shin guard. And so he was definitely having a scuff on the ball. It was a scuff in the same spot every time I saw it. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it to do anything for me. But the game 6 against Houston, that game get lost because of game 6 in the World Series. But that game was unbelievable. I mean, an incredible game. You know, Roscoe came in, I think he went 3 innings. Pitching unbelievable. I know you guys probably read where Keith Hernandez threatened Roscoe about if he throws another fastball to Kevin Bass, what he was going to do to him. But just a great series. Lenny hit the big home run. Everybody played a part. But that game, like I say, that game get lost because of game 6 in the World Series. And unbelievable game. And I think by us going 16 innings in that game, and then they talk about the plane ride going home back to New York, we actually, the plane was trash. I guess I'm trying to look for a better word. I'm looking for a better word, but I guess I could just say it's just trash, right? Like you could picture, like when a guy throws a no-hitter or when a team wins a World Series, how everybody piles up on the mound. Just take that and picture that on a plane. Full fights, it was everything going on, but it was just fun. And I remember the next day we get to the ballpark, we had a workout, and Frank Cashin, our general manager, he brought the bill from the plane and gave it to David Johnson for us to pay for it. David looked at it, he goes, "We just won your effing title, you pay for it." And threw it back to Cashin. So, and like you mentioned about the World Series, not to take anything away from the Red Sox, who had a great team, but I truly believe that the first couple of games we lost at home was because there was so much taken out of us mentally and physically in game 6 against Houston that we wasn't mentally prepared for that, the first 2 games at home.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing like it. That was
crazy.
Between the Championship Series and the World Series. Let's talk about some of the rules today. Do you like the new rules with the pitch clock?
You know, I like it.
And the bigger bases, how do you feel about that?
I like it. I think with the clock, it speeds up the game. I think they save like 30 to 35 minutes per game. I think that's good. But on the other hand, it's kind of like they contradict themselves because then you have the replays for the stolen bases and the catch ball. So I like the clock. It speeds up the game and it takes away the batter stepping out, fixing the batting gloves, or pitchers walking around the mound. It's different in my game. Like a lot of times I get asked, could I've done that the way the game's played now? I think so. It's just about making adjustments. The same way when I was playing, you make the adjustments to the umpires, and you guys probably do that. Some umpires like calling a high pitch, some call a low pitch, some might give you an inch away. So it's about making adjustments, and I like it. On the bigger bases, I think it saves injuries with the close plays, the bunt plays, or guys, getting back to the base on double plays. So I like the rule changes, but I'm just hoping that they don't do too much more. It's a beautiful game, and hopefully they stop with the changes.
And what about the pitch counts too? Because you had a lot of complete games and a lot of shutouts, and nowadays it's a little different. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, with the pitch count, I don't blame the pitchers so much. I think it's the systems that they're doing now. Baseball, as a lot of you coaches may know, is more of a copycat league. And what I mean by that, if one organization does something, if it works, then all the teams does it. And so I don't really blame the pitchers for doing that. I don't agree with it, because to me, throwing 100 pitches in 3 innings is totally different than throwing 100 pitches in 7 innings, as well as they don't like the pitchers facing the line the 3rd time around, which I rather have a guy, if he's having success, face the line the 3rd time around, opposed to bringing a reliever in who you hadn't seen that particular night.